Hello again. Welcome to Chapter 7, Inventory and Pricing Management. In this chapter, we will focus on inventory management strategies, overbooking, and price management principles. We're going to talk 12 of them. If you recall from previous chapter, we talked about 4 P's of marketing. Products was what is sold, and it will be the first part of this chapter. Price is, of course, the financial terms of sale and will be addressed in the second part. And place is where transaction happens or happened, includes both hotel location and distribution channels. And we are going to address that in the next chapter. And finally, promotion is part better addressed in maybe in the more appropriate for the marketing courses. Now, let's start with defining what do we mean by products in our hotel industry. Now, first, rooms inventory is all of the unique forms of guest room products offered for sale by a hotel. Rooms inventory management is also known as inventory management. If you recall, inventory management is the process of allocating and modifying the number of products available for sale at various prices and through various distribution channels. Now, revenue managers allocate room types, room rates, and impose restriction on distribution channels or control of product availability or non-availability. Now, let's look at this example. For example, in here, room with king bed and room with the double bed, which is the DD, double, is common CRS and PMS code for room with the double bed. You can actually read this example from book in more detail, but basically they have 2 types of rooms, right? Usually, the idea here, both Shanna and Louis has around 50% occupancy. So they usually offer 20% discounts. Now, these prices here reflect that discount. In a few weeks, it seems that demand increasing, more specifically for DD rooms, like 2 to 1, like two people getting a DD room, then maybe one only getting the king rooms. Shana realizes there is a gymnastic competition coming. So you know that the young girls usually they travel with parents and prefer double bed. So Shana eliminates discount for DD rooms. So of course the book assumes they still achieve 75% occupancy, but because Shana eliminated discounts for DD, basically she generated much more better revenue per available room. Idea here is there is a different type of product and how one of the revenue manager managed inventory differently. If we calculate, by the way, RevPAR difference in our example, Shana and Louis, that Shana achieved better RevPAR with about 8.3% RevPAR differences. How you calculate is you get the, like in this case, Shana's RevPAR minus the Louis' RevPAR divided by Louis' RevPAR, it gives to RevPAR difference. Now, just to give you another example, referring to earlier example, if you look at their availability, we can see that Shana eliminated the discount rate for DD room. Like in this case, like king room is rack rate is most likely without discount, basically $199.99. Discounted king was $159.99. Double was $199.99, and discounted DD was $159.99. And Shana eliminated the discounted rate. If you recall from our earlier discussions that instead of increasing price, that's what we call usually, but we create some kind of rack rate. We're gonna talk in a few minutes, and we usually offer discounted rates if there is a some higher demand, we eliminate that discount. Overall, when we look at the overall picture, overall, the room codes are a property-specific shortened description used to identify a specific room product in a hotel. For example, NSDD could identify non-smoking double room, right? And there are many factors utilized in establishing differential pricing strategies, and it varies from property to property. Following the book, we will focus on location. For example, a ocean view room will have more value on the eye of the guest, right? Room size or type. For example, larger rooms usually considered more valuable. Bed configuration, we just talked about it. It plays very important role and dictates number of beds and sizes. Packages also could be considered in this case. Packaging is basically a process of bundling of products and services such as room, and you offer room and dinner for two, just to give you an example. Professional rooms inventory management requires that revenue managers know their guest rooms distinctive characteristics, and they match them to potential guests who value those same characteristics. Think about it earlier example. Because the people, the young gymnast girls coming with their parents, they usually prefer DD rooms. Just an example. This is another example. When devising room codes, revenue manager should strive to create the optimal number of them. Too few means you didn't do a good job versioning various room types. Too much room rates creates confusion. So individual room codes should help hotel sales and front desk staffs clearly understand the significant differences between the hotel's various room types. Now we have some ideas about room codes are generated. We also need to understand different classification of guests by market segments. Guest room sales can be generally classified as being made to one of three major market segments. Transient guests are simply defined as those are not part of a group or contract sale. For these guests, revenue managers must ensure that effective upon arrival upsell program are in place. We're going to talk about in a minute, and at their properties, and that the program's effectiveness is measured and assessed on a regular basis. Overall, we can talk about two different strategies. The first one is what we call pre-arrival strategy. Pre-arrival strategy is in you have to clearly communicate the potential buyers the availability of hotels, various room types. Then, of course, you need to accurately record these guest purchases. There are many different distribution channels, and if one of those channels made a reservation, it should be updated in real time for all other channels, right? We're gonna talk about overbooking in a few minutes, but if there is no real-time communication between like for example, someone did a book in the OTA, but you didn't know about it because it's taking some time. Like for example, you are downloading the reservation nightly, let's say, and because for your own channels you sold out, now you have an overbooking problem. So making rooms available for sale or withholding them is a powerful pre-arrival revenue management tool. Now, one of the strong upon arrival strategies, upselling. So upselling is when seller persuade the customer to purchase more expensive items, upgrades, or other add-ons in an attempt to make a more profitable sale. It is most significant tool utilized by front desk to increase revenue management performance. To increase seller revenues, you can go with the two different ways, right? First is by selling the buyer a higher cost item than that which was originally intended to be purchased, or by increasing the number of items purchased by the buyer or additional items, like in room example, for example. You can add maybe restaurant or spa or some other things that part of your hotel. So what can be upsold to transit hotel customers upon arrival? Room with views, like they got the regular view. What about the ocean view? Different bed types, square footage. You can add maybe meeting space. If there is a possibility, you can give them an access to VIP lounge areas, or packages, like for example include say restaurant or spa. So how you motivate the front desk staff to upsell? This is one of the, of course, related to your training and incentive programs, but usually you create an opportunities for the front desk to sell upgrades. It could be, you can consider maybe a commission program for front desk staff. Uh, it is possible also give front desk staff to the freedom to negotiate, of course, on, in some ranges. You can give them certain range, and they could have more freedom to negotiate. Uh, it is also very important to train front desk agents that they should know the property. They should know the selling points of each room type and suitability to guest type. So they need to understand also market segment. They should understand, they know the availability of those, whatever that you are trying to upsell. You should always ask every arrival, and you should also, like we talk about this, they should, not you, but the front desk employees, they should also able to negotiate different upsell opportunities. Now, the group room, on the other hand, is the group room inventory management different from transient, because the way group rooms are sold. The first, group rooms are blocked, and second, they are individually reserved by group members. You can see that this could create a problem if group members are not reserved all the rooms, because I mean, if they block the, let's say, 100 rooms, and if they reserved only 50 rooms, then your block or that 50 rooms will go unsold. So depending on the terms of the group contract, revenue manager should also need to negotiate how long those rooms will remain in the block and what kind of attrition penalties will be imposed. Attrition is the difference between the purchase group say they will get and actual reservation by group members. It's called the wash down, or slippage. I mean, there are many different contract types. I don't want to get into too much detail, but you can put some restriction. Let's say 60 days before the conference, at least 50% of the room needs to be reserved. 30 days, it has to be like 70%, etc. But you can put some restriction, and if that numbers are not achieved, you can eliminate you can resize the blocked rooms size, basically. Uh, Effective group rooms management is affected by many different things, right? You have to be considered always. First of all, the group histories. I mean, block size, total pickup, peak night, when decreasing, when increasing. So if you have a history with the group, it might help you. You have to also understand the groups as well, because sometimes they have an unrealistic expectation, because they do also, like we talk about the chapter 6 about forecasting, they do also some wrong forecastings. And also you need to also the group room management is highly affected by the buyer's negotiation tactics, like discounts, cutoff date, etc. So you have to be all familiarized with yourself with the different negotiations tactics and what kind of things could be in contract. In addition to transit and groups, we also deal with special contract and negotiated room rates in our industry. Now, when we say contract rate, we talk about the long-term room rate that is agreed to in advance and for the duration of the contract agreement. For example, you make a 1-year contract, right? So basically, agreement by a hotel to house every night for 1 year an airline's 10% flight crew. Like there is a certain you go to not you go to, but they usually come to you. They when they fly to certain cities, that flight crew needs to stay somewhere, and they usually make a contract with the hotels, and they go and stay there. A negotiated room is the in a sense similar, but this is an agreement to provide a select group of travelers, subject availability of course, rooms at an agreed and on discounted rate. Discounted rate is an effect for the term of negotiated rate agreement, a special rate basically given to all travelers employed, let's say, by company A. So it's also referred to as volume discount rate. Let's say some company doing a lot of business in your city, and every year hundreds of thousands of people traveling to your city, and you can, but of course you don't know the exact times and dates and etc. You can go to negotiated room as a discount rate. Now, of course, we need to address overbooking in order to fully understand inventory management. Overbooking can happen unintentional and intentional. Like when we say unintentional, for example, damaged rooms, right? OOO, like out of order rooms. Unexpected maintenance related issues such as air condition problems, damage to furniture, carpet, etc. might happen for a single room. Or major electric problem, flood, etc. could put many rooms in out of order. It is always possible that staff can make mistakes, such as making or canceling reservation wrongly, and of course, arrival and departure days could be put in down wrongly, and because of that, this creates issue of available rooms. There are also many distribution channels we were just talking about a few minutes ago, and it is always possible due to lack of real-time communication or updates, unintentional double booking could happen. And also sometimes people decide to stay more than what they reserved due to illness, change in travel plans, etc. And we cannot kick out these overstay guests for both legal and business reasons. But because of this, we have unintentional overbooking happens. Now, these are all unintended and could be minimized, but we cannot totally eliminate them. There is also intentional practice of overbooking. For example, you are a very busy hotel and your historical data shows you almost always have 5% no-shows. Theoretically, you can sell them or overbook, making the double money from those 5% of the room. But let's talk about some issues might come up with. Especially for intentional overbooking, ethics is an important issue, right? While in the end, overbooking is a business decision because it generates more money. But you, as a future managers, you should consider how will you feel about if you are the one that overbooked. What about other issues, such as legal issues? Normally, you are creating a contract, right? When reserving room, in a sense, a contract, and if you are not going to fulfill your obligations, in this case, you will not provide a room due to overbooking, and that is intentional, meaning you knew there is a possibility you cannot provide room. We are not talking about unintentional part. And it seems legally should be wrong. Of course, the issue is it is hard to prove in the court you intentionally breached the contract, but still, there is a known issues that many hotels have been sued because of this issue. In USA, Department of Transportation enforces rules and laws for all airlines to protect consumer, but there is not one for hotels. However, considering the social network era, your reputation could be destroyed in a matter of days. In the past, you could just walk the guests, apologize to them, compensate them as minimal as possible, but it might not work anymore if they expose you to millions of people. So why they still do the practice? Because of additional RevPAR generated. Even with the no-show fees imposed, there are many hotels use this practice. Overall, both sides favoring or against overbook will have own reasoning to defend their side, but it is your responsibility to consider different factors or your reputation as well and your ethical approach. In practice, however, when overbooking happens, both intentional or unintentional, you need to provide room to those people. What we call walking the guest is to relocate a guest with a confirmed reservation at a hotel to an alternative property. If you work in the in our industry, and if you've done this before, you know it could be very bad experience, not only for guests but employees as well. In any case, it is best not to walk. Let's say you are in the situation, but what is the, if it's possible, of course, you shouldn't. I don't want to say never, but you shouldn't. You should try not to walk people like members of hotel loyalty programs, group or event attendees, contracted rooms such as airline crew, couples with special occasions, and families arriving late at night. This could give you big problems in the both short and long term. Now we forecasted buyer demand and considered the products and their availability. The next task will be price management. Price management is the strategies and tactics employed by revenue managers to best match rates or prices charged with the prospective customers' willingness to pay. Now, historically, accountants from cost pricing perspective developed target or potential or ideal rate and how those achieved. Let's say you have an ideal rate is $100. However, you use discounts and special rates, and actual ADR was $90. So we can say that achieved potential ADR was 90%. As you know, the initial idea from yield management comes from airline, where yield is the amount of the airline paid per passenger, considering the, of course, mileage, and load is the percentage of seats filled by those paying customers. So we can think yield as a hotel's ADR and loads as a hotel occupancy. This is from the historical and yield perspective. Now, okay, let me see. Pricing of room referred as rate in our industry, right? In hotel industry, we create different rate codes to differentiate between different rates. Rate code is a property specific notation used by hotels PMS to specify the price of a unique room product. This is also known as a rate plan. For example, in this example, rack rate, for example, means full price, no discounts. So the revenue manager should spend most time to sell as many rooms as possible at their rack rate. However, the revenue manager should offer discounts, for example, when the length of guest stay offsets the rate reduction. For example, in our case here is extended stay. The code example rate in here changed to EXT with a discount. So length of guest of stays, days with low demand, if arriving and staying on dates with the low demand. The number of rooms purchased is many, like group rooms, for example. The buyer has special status. For example, stay a night a week, but 30 weeks a year versus one night transient guest. And if the total revenue generated by the sale offsets the reduction in rack rate. For example, they request generate non-room revenues, food and beverage, etc. I gave some example and apply what you know part of the videos. Once again, revenue managers should always try to sell maximum numbers at rack rate, but important part that you should always offer easily explainable and defensible rate. So you use discount rates when you need to sell more rooms and close discounts and use stay restrictions when demand is high. But whatever you do, it should be easily explainable and defensible. As I said, this is just a basic example of a rate code for extended stay. Non-rack room rates could be developed for many reasons, right? We discussed in chapter 4, such as customer characteristics, location, time, quantity, distribution channel, product versioning, bundling, and payment terms. Once again, I'm going to repeat this again. All the rates must be easily understood by employees, easily explainable to buyers, and must be defendable if other guests questions them. One other kind of rate is called special event rates, is also called a premium rate, premium rack rate, super rack rate, which is an above rack room rate and implemented, as the name implies, during extremely high demands in certain special events. Other tools we use for inventory management are called stay restrictions or stay controls. These are the duration rules and limitations related to guest arrival dates, departure dates, and minimum stay length. For example, closed arrival, CTA, is a date on which guests are not permitted to begin their hotel stays, meaning you cannot check in that day, but you can check in before that day and stay during that day. So there could be many reasons for restrictions, such as you don't want to strain your front desk with huge volume of check-ins. I mean, there is a different reasons as well, but this is not necessarily a good tool, but if needed, it could be used. But it's not considered as a good tool. Now, one other thing is called minimum length of stay. On the minimum length of stay, on the other hand, as the name implies, it declines any room reservation request that does not equal or exceed the predetermined minimum number of nights allowed. Minimum stay is like 3 nights a night, three nights, for example. Sometimes also used with the CTAs together. Now, these are the overall what's the room rates and the room codes, room rates, and some of the basic of pricing management. But let's overall look at the 12th principle of inventory, and let us finish this chapter with quickly checking this 12 good inventory and management principle. First one is that you should maximize the room codes. It has to make sense, so you have more opportunities to differentiate your products. Also, minimize the rate codes. If possible, you should have a real-time communication between your property and distribution channels. This reduces errors and unintentional overbooking. As I talked previously, you should develop good training and incentive program for upsell. And also, you need to constantly monitor group rooms and contracted rooms. Now, intentional overbooking, while it has financial benefits, could create both short and long-term issues. Avoid if you can. Rack room rate is the best rate for the property. Depending on your buyers, you should always go for rack rate. Rack rate discounts are good strategy, but be sure easily defendable and explainable. You should always offer some enhancements to justify special event rates. Like, you are increasing the price, but you could offer, it's not going to cost you a lot, but you can offer some enhancement to justify those rates. When demand getting strong, eliminating discount rates and implementing stay restriction must be done effectively. And your employees, more specifically front desk and reservation, must understand the all ins and outs of all the room and rate codes. They should know anything about it, so they can both explain it to the people, and also if there is an opportunity, they can upsell. Periodically, you should check all your rates structure, especially the rack rates, doing the competitive analysis. And let us not forget about the distribution channels. Now, we know the distribution channels help, but you have to pay them. So you should always look alternatives to increase your net ADR yield. Okay, thank you for listening.